Peace, everybody. This is Brother Joe, and I'm here for the People's Voice with the Real Estate Report. Today, what I want to talk to everybody about, first of all, in Wilmington, it's a tale of two cities. This is something that's going on not just in Wilmington, but it's going on around the country. If you look at this historically, in the 1930s, you had the Great Depression, and the United States almost fell apart. The whole economy was crashing. So then World War II, the war is what generated a lot of income. It was during World War II where they perfected industry. Prior to World War II, there weren't cars like there are right now, driving on it. There weren't highways like there are right now. City living, and if you think about it, just organically, you start with family and they build a house, a hut. You get a couple more of those and you build a little town, a little village, and that becomes a city which becomes a state. So city living is actually the highest form of society that we have when we're talking real estate right now. City is the highest use of real estate. It's developing and living in a state of convenience. You can get up, walk down the street. There's a store right there. Your neighbors are right there, people that you could depend on. So prior to World War II, that's what was happening. You had the great cities, New York being the biggest in the United States. And so World War II hits. They got masterful at mass production. So it's in the 1950s, right? World War II ends at the end of the 40s. 1950s is where you see highways being built. And this being, we're in Delaware. The 1950s is when they built the DuPont Highway, AKA Route 13. So think about that. Before 1950, if you wanted to go from the north of Delaware, Wilmington or what have you, toward the beaches or even down to Middletown or anywhere, how are you getting there? Local roads. Well, that didn't matter because there were, people weren't really driving cars like that. Because that's another thing that happened in World War II. They learned how to mass produce cars. So if you're going to mass produce cars, we got to build highways for people to drive on them. But why would we need cars and highways if everybody lives in the city? So we need to destroy cities. Also, at the end of World War II, remember that's when they perfected jets. Prior to World War II, planes were had little propellers on them. Nobody had jets. Jets were created during World War II. If you study the war itself, you would see toward the end is when they started having jet fighters. At the beginning of the war, it was propeller bombers. So I'm saying all that to say, we're talking about Wilmington. They call Murder Town. There are many of us who are fearful of Wilmington. There's crime and there's poverty and there's all these scary things. What I want to tell you is this was all by design, because post-World War II, they had to get people to go out the city. And Wilmington is a prime example. I-95 cuts right through the city of Wilmington. And if you talk to any people who were here before that, they will tell you, yeah, this neighborhood was like this and whatever. And they had to break it apart to build 95. Now, anyone who knows Wilmington knows along that 95 corridor is where there's a lot of dramas. So along with that highway came a lot of hardship, a lot of issues that we face right now. Started with the creation of that highway. Now, remember, this is all built after World War II. So this is what we're looking at. At that time, it was all good. They started building developments. People fled and went to the burbs. It was all good, because there was poverty in the cities, and this is throughout the country. And that was fine because, people wanted to get out. People wanted to be out the cities and were happy they had the nice developments, and they used race to scare people. I don't want to be in the city with all the brown-skinned people. Fast forward to today, their children and grandchildren, they want to be in the city again. It's cool. I like city living. So this is why you have a thing today which we call gentrification. It's people who want to come back and make that city a viable place for them again. Because they were here. Again, prior to World War II, everybody was in the city. That was the place to live. After World War II, they intentionally destroyed cities to get people to move out, which made more money. Now you need gas. Now you're spending all kinds of money, shopping in strip malls, bringing all kind of money out to those areas. But now it's coming back. because it's realized that, hey, I'm tired of this commute. I can't deal with this commute anymore, and gas prices are too high and the economy, all these kind of things are hitting. So now, like I said, the grandchildren are like, hey, you know what? I need to come back. If you look at certain, now I'm speaking specifically about Wilmington, Delaware, you look at certain neighborhoods, you go to Southbridge, you go on the east side of Wilmington, you go up Hilltop and different areas. Crime is at an all-time high in those areas. We hear the stories, we see the news articles, the Newsweek and everybody talking about it, Murdertown, USA. That's allowed to happen. Along with that crime and with all the poverty, again, because we took all the money out from the city, all the people who had the money or could afford it went and they wanted to live in the burbs so they could buy houses. So what's left behind is low-income people. So now those areas, and Wilmington had riots, which were famous. Since then, we've allowed it to just deteriorate. The city's just falling apart. So as you walk through certain neighborhoods, you'll see vacant house, vacant house, vacant house. Drug-addicted people walk around. There's homeless people. All the other crimes that are associated with drugs. You have the drug dealers, you have the violence, you have the gangs, fighting over the little bit of drug turf and a little bit of money and whatever have you. We see all this blight and all this stuff that's scary. And as a result, you see even those people who were still in the city, the residents, going, I gotta leave, I'm fed up, I'm scared, I need to go. So we're seeing an exodus of people leaving the city. The same time as we're seeing an exodus going out, we're seeing a whole influx coming in. We can go on the east side, we could go to places like Bennett Street, and we see more and more vacant houses and actually houses being torn down. So the powers that be, if you will, are not putting their money into repairing or making life better for the people. But at the same time, we see a lot of investment in Wilmington. There's a lot of money coming into the city of Wilmington. I mean, a lot of money. What we define gentrification is people coming into those neighborhoods that are falling apart and repairing them and changing the landscape of the city. But in Wilmington, we had a unique situation where there were parts of the city that had been pretty much abandoned for so long and have been vacant for so long or not occupied, that what they've done is not even go into these areas and repair them and fix them. No, they're just building all new. So let's go to the riverfront, which the riverfront was basically marshland, but it's still the 19801 zip code. As we go through the riverfront, we see high-rise buildings, apartments, condos, retail. We see lots of great restaurants. And actually, it's beautiful, the things that are coming up on the riverfront. Movie theater, the trampoline spot. We got fitness places. It's almost a mini city in itself, but it's all in the 19801 area code. And with all this building and construction and all this new residential property, who's living here? Who's moving in? Is it the residents of Wilmington, or are they importing new people? People who are not local. If you pay attention, that's what you're seeing. You're seeing the money's moving into Wilmington. You see like the little name brand coffee shops. I'm not gonna give them an advertising plug, but you see them. You see the restaurants and people sitting out on the decks and outside, having their drinks and sipping their coffee. You see hotels being built, beautiful hotels being built. The Chase Center, making it into a nice place where you can have conventions and everything. Wonderful things are being built. But you have those residents, as we spoke about earlier, the people who are afraid and going, oh, Wilmington's a dangerous place. Oh, there's murder, there's all these gunshots. They're not receiving the benefit of any of that. They're not taking part in any of the wonderful things that are going on. Union Street, look at all the buildings going on there. I won't call it high density, me being a New Yorker originally, so high density is high-rise buildings, so it's not that. I'll say middle density though, multi-unit apartment and condos being built on Union Street. And we have all these wonderful restaurants and they're putting bike lanes in the streets. It's actually pretty cool. Someone who strolling up and down Union Street might not even realize they're in Wilmington. Then look at this high-rise building they're putting up on Pennsylvania Avenue. With the pools, swimming pools, everything. This beautiful building they're putting up right here on Pennsylvania Avenue. Lots of infrastructure being put into Wilmington. Now let's go downtown. Over on top of the drugstore, we see more residential spaces. We see the residences in Rodney Square. We're doing a little upscale here now. Apartment building. We can go up here on 9th Street. This was little shops. This was a parking garage here on 9th Street. Commercial property, but low end. Now that's all been torn down and we're building a little more high-end, high-rise apartment living. High-rise condos and things of that nature are being put here. We're actually increasing the population of Wilmington because you know what they're doing? They're driving you out. They don't want you here anymore. So you can complain and talk about the crime and talk about this and that and how you want this better, and you could talk to your mayors and city council people. But if you pay attention, as they're building all these more luxury spaces at prices that you can't afford, they're bringing in a new resident to Wilmington. They're bringing in a new tax bracket, and guess what's going to happen? They don't have to gerrymander the voting district. The voting district is changing right before your eyes because this is all 19801 we're talking about here. So as all these residents come in and they redo the census, and as elections come up, Trump's in his first year, so he got 3 more. So by the time that election comes around, Wilmington's going to be a total different place. Yeah, those elections are going to look a lot different. City council is going to look, local elections are going to look a lot different. City council is going to look a lot different. The legislators are going to look a lot different because we're bringing a lot different population here. We're just talking about this because I want y'all to wake up. I want you to, let's stroll on Market Street. I would say probably 10 years ago, most of Market Street was probably vacant, abandoned commercial properties that were falling apart. Like, it was kind of dangerous to even walk on Market Street because a building might have fell on you. I mean, I seen buildings leaning over on Market Street. Let's look at Market Street right now. All these wonderful restaurants, all these wonderful businesses. Who are they catering to? You know, who are they here for? Because we see other places closing. We see a lot of businesses closing. They shut down the fried chicken spot. Well, what's opening up in its place? Anyway, I'm just talking to y'all just to shed some information that's right in plain sight. You may not be paying attention. So this is Brother Joe with the Real Estate Report. Peace.